If you're a NeuroSpicy adult with a tarot deck in one hand and a trauma history in the other, this episode is for you. You're not imagining that astrology feels more real than your 10th grade science class. And it turns out there's a pretty wild reason why so many of us end up healing through moon phases and nervous system rewiring at the same time. Let's just name it. A lot of us neurodivergent folks were gaslit out of our inner knowing from the jump. We were told that we were overreacting, too sensitive, too much. So when we found something, anything, that resonated in our bones, we clung to it like a lifeline. And honestly, it makes sense. Neurodivergent people are often wired to notice patterns, visually, emotionally, and socially. We pick up the vibe in the room before anyone else even realizes it's changed. Our brains are scanning constantly, taking in subtle cues from tone, posture, facial expression, energy shifts. Now here's where we zoom out. So much of what we understand today about the nervous system, neurodivergence, and emotional regulation is still new, like last decade new. So it's not always that our parents ignored our needs. They just didn't have the tools. Most of them were likely undiagnosed too. Their overwhelm and overstimulation weren't seen as red flags. They were just life. Now, as elderly millennials, hi, that's me, we are part of a wave of parents trying to do it differently. We're parenting in a neurologically respectful way, even though we weren't raised like that ourselves. That's not just good parenting, it's lineage healing. This is also where introception comes in. Something you might not have heard of unless you've been deep diving into neurodivergent research or therapy TikTok. Introception is your brain's ability to interpret signals coming from inside your body, like your heartbeat, hunger, thirst, or your emotions. When your introception is off, which is super common for neurodivergent folks, you might not know you're anxious until you're already crying. You might not notice you're hungry until you're hangry, or you might mislabel internal feelings altogether, calling it dramatic or emotional, when it's really just a nervous system signal that got lost in translation. Or if you're like myself, you don't even realize that you're dehydrated until you cannot open your eyes from a throbbing headache. For many of us, this difficulty in tuning in meant that we looked outside ourselves for meaning. And astrology, tarot, or energy work become powerful mirrors. When we read something in a birth chart or hear a tarot message that matches our lived experience, it's not just cute. It clicks because it helps us feel seen by reflecting what's happening internally, even when we can't always access that ourselves. Carl Jung, who coined the term synchronicity, wrote about archetypes and the collective unconscious. This is psychology's way of explaining why humans are drawn to symbols and patterns across time and cultures. Tarot and astrology, it's basically the subconscious speaking a language our brain understands better than small talk. It helps us organize emotional chaos into meaning. That's why shadow work, originally Jungian, is now woven into spirituality. It's self-reflection that feels less clinical and more soulful. For many of us raised in organized religion, especially those of us with trauma, spirituality has been complicated. I was raised Catholic, attending a Roman Catholic school from preschool through high school. I always felt like something didn't add up. I couldn't understand why babies were supposedly born with sin, or why a woman burning incense was called a witch while priests used incense at Mass. My pattern-recognizing, justice-oriented brain couldn't make peace with a religion that punished curiosity and shame-spiraled kids into believing they were broken. If you experience trauma, especially sexual trauma, religion can double down on the pain. I was made to feel like I was ruined, that my purity was gone, that I was now a sin. When I got older and acted out of that pain, like many survivors do, I was met with more shame and judgment instead of compassion. The black and white thinking of many religious frameworks just doesn't make room for trauma, grief, or healing. When you teach a child that purity is everything, and then that child is harmed, it wires them to believe that they are nothing. That's not love, that's indoctrination. For neurodivergent brains, which tend to operate in extremes and are sensitive to justice and fairness, these rigid systems can feel deeply unsafe. It's not just spiritual dissonance. It's nervous system dysregulation dressed up in church clothes. And when the world feels unsafe, we seek something that doesn't. Nature is often the first place many of us feel safe again. It's not a coincidence. Our bodies were designed to regulate in natural environments. Sunshine gives us vitamin D, which improves mood and immune function. The act of walking barefoot, yes, really, earthing is a thing, can reduce inflammation and help our body rebalance stress hormones. Forest bathing or simply spending time in trees lowers cortisol levels and boosts natural killer cells, aka the immune system's front line. Nature literally reboots our nervous system. But beyond the science, it's also about the sensory experience. For sensory seekers or avoiders, nature is forgiving. It gives you light that shifts gently, sounds that are soft and layered, textures that are soothing. It gives you breath, and it asks for nothing in return. For a brain that's always on, the forest says, you can rest now, and that's medicine. There's also emerging research that ND folks, especially autistic individuals, may process sensory input in ways that create a deeper sensitivity to nature's rhythms. While more data is needed, anecdotal experiences show that many ND people feel more at peace in natural environments because the sensory load is coherent, not chaotic. Our pattern-seeking brains notice the consistency in rustling leaves and bird song and the rhythm of waves, and that predictability becomes safety. Some people meditate, some chant, some journal their dreams under the moon. Some do EMDR with their therapist and pull a tarot card before bed. It's not either or, it's all connected because healing is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and that's what makes it powerful. When we blend what we know scientifically about the brain and nervous system with practices that feel intuitively true, we create healing that actually sticks. We build neural pathways with repetition and emotional safety, and if pulling a card or reading your chart gives you that, then it matters. You matter. So if you've ever felt embarrassed about your crystal collection or wonder if it's too woo-woo, I'm here to say it's not. You're not broken for wanting meaning. You're not foolish for craving peace. You're not too sensitive for being in tune. You're a NeuroSpicy human healing your nervous system in a world that didn't see it hurting. That's not flaky, that's revolutionary. This week, I want to give a huge shout out to Christina at Digital Wolf, the creative force behind my Sparkling Spaces website. She doesn't just build a beautiful Squarespace site, she has channeled the heart of my brand with intuitive, strategy-first design that actually works. If you're a NeuroSpicy creative or a heart-led entrepreneur in need of branding magic that connects, visit her at digitalwolfdesigns.com. Her tagline says it all: you deserve better than a forgettable brand in a half-finished website. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. This podcast is truly a labor of love, and every listen, share, and kind message makes such a difference. If today's episode resonated with you, please don't forget to follow the NeuroSpicy Mom Pod on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you love to listen. Leave a rating or a review. It really helps other folks find our community. Want more behind the scenes tea and life updates? Subscribe to the Patreon for just $5 a month or more if you feel called to support this mission. You'll get access to exclusive bonus content, unfiltered updates, and be part of the squad that's literally helping me build a sustainable future. And remember, whether you're healing through crystals or CBT, you're not broken, you're not alone, and you're definitely not too much. You're exactly who you're meant to be. See you next week. Ta-ta!